The Museum Roadshow is brought to you by 125 Apparel.
Hello everyone, I'm Kathy Coyle, a volunteer with the Becker County Museum here in Detroit Lakes. It's my honor today to interview an author who has grown up on Pelican Lake, lived in the cities as well, but she just loves summer in our area, and don't we all? I am visiting with Marjorie Matheson Hance. Look at this gruesome picture. She's going to tell us more about it. Murder at Pelican Lake. And Marjorie tells me that this is new to her. You weren't an author. You were a fundraiser for a Catholic girls' college.
I was.
Yeah.
I was vice president at St. Catherine University in St. Paul. I did a lot of writing, more business writing, grant writing, things like that. So I was experienced at writing, but that's very straightforward writing.
Exactly.
And this is exactly the opposite. It's very creative. It has to have flow and imagination and things that they don't like in grant writing. So
and I am so glad to meet you today because my background is news, and it was structured, and then the idea of being creative, I've always wanted to be more creative, so I'm inspired by meeting you today.
Oh, thank you.
So who knows, maybe I'll want to write a murder mystery too.
Maybe, that's great.
And really, I think that is the gist of this whole, because this has been a journey for you. You told me that you lost your husband.
I did.
And so you're dealing with grief, but you turn to literature and the arts in order to deal with grief.
Well, I did, and it's been 12 years. He died 12 years ago. I was at the lake alone, which hardly ever happened. We always had a lot of family around, a lot of people, and I thought, well, what am I going to do with myself? And I just was so enamored with Pelican Lake and with people I'd met there, and I started writing about them. And the more I wrote, the more fun I had. And then I thought, well, I don't want to write about real people because that's not what this is. And I love murder mysteries. I love to read. And so pretty soon it just morphed into a murder mystery. And I just had so much fun with it. But there are no real people in this book. None of the situations are real.
Everybody's alive and
Everyone's alive and well. This is not based on a real murder.
Yeah. It's kind of like the movie Fargo, that it didn't really happen in Fargo.
You betcha.
Same thing, this murder did not really happen at Pelican Lake.
That's right.
So how did you go from being a grant writer at St. Kate's to letting yourself just flow and learning to be creative? Did you take classes, or what did you do?
Well, that's a good question. I did take one class. I took How to Write a Murder Mystery at the Loft in Minneapolis, which is a well-known writers workshop. A lot of authors developed there, and worked with a woman named Ellen Hart, who's a well-known Minnesota murder mystery writer, and just had fun with it still. I still didn't plan to publish. I just still was having fun with it and learned a lot about the process, how to do it. And I didn't know the plot when I started. And I think that's harder when you don't know the plot, because my writing became pretty straightforward at first, just trying to get the plot down. And then I'd have to go back and rewrite to make it more interesting, more showing rather than telling, really bringing out some of the drama of it.
Did they encourage you to do that, or did they say have an outline?
No, they said people come at it different ways. We had a panel of expert writers, and half of them knew the plot before they started, half of them didn't. And there's a funny scene in here where the main character goes golfing, and I thought I sent her out looking for the plot that day. I just didn't quite know where it was going, and I found it, and from that point on the book writing was much faster.
I'm trying to visualize this. Are you sitting on the dock at Pelican Lake just letting your mind go?
Sometimes, yes, sometimes. Sometimes I'd be out in the boat, sometimes I'd be driving between Minneapolis and Pelican Lake. It's a very creative, fun process.
Yeah.
The nice part about it was I was never bored. I didn't have a chance to be bored, because if I had a lull in what I was doing, I would just start working on this, and it was always fun.
And you mentioned Vergas right away in the beginning.
Right away in the beginning.
One of my favorite little towns around
Vergas,
here.
Yes, yes. And the other thing that's been fun is watching people discover places that they know in the area. And I don't name most of them for legal reasons, but people will say, oh, I know what that is. I know what you were talking about. And that's been very fun. And I've had people who say, oh, I know, that's our restaurant you were talking about. Well, it might not have been, but they felt it was. They felt like I captured something about them. And people are very nostalgic about the lakes.
Yes.
They love the lakes. They love their family experience at the lakes. So I think a lot of the things that I talked about really resonated with readers.
And you are them. You told me you grew up in Fargo at Shanley.
At Shanley,
Class
I did.
of 66.
Class of 66.
I got that out of her. And so you went to the lake for years with your aunt and uncle, and then your parents bought a place, and then you bought it from your parents and enhanced it. So you have roots.
I have deep roots.
Yeah.
My parents bought the lake home 51 years ago. I bought it from them 20 years ago, so our whole family has grown up on the lake. And
what are some of those kind of nostalgic feelings that you had and then you've seen in your readers?
I think it's a sense of place that's connected to everything we love. It's connected with family, it's connected with vacation, with relaxation. And Pelican is a pretty recreational lake. It's not about that. It's really all about the experience of being together. And there are things I talk about in the book, like certain smells or experiences, and people say, oh, that's just what I've known there. And they know it on just it's a visceral level. It's not an intellectual kind of heady thing. It's just their deep experience.
And your characters are young girls.
Well,
who have crushes on different guys that they've met?
Well, it starts out, the very, very quick first chapter is about 3 young girls who are 15 and walking together through Vergas, and 2 of them go onto their homes and the 3rd is kidnapped. And that creates a lot of concern for people in reading the book because they're a little worried about what happens to the girl, and I won't say more than that because you'll have to read the book to find that out. But it's really a story about the main character, who's Carly, who's a 34-year-old young woman, and she just lost her company that she worked for. It moved to New York, and her boyfriend of many years, whom she planned to marry. And so she's returned to the lake because, first of all, she has no place to live anymore and no place to work. She does have a consulting contract. And her parents are gone. Her dad had died 2 years earlier. So she returned to the lake as her place of home because it's about all she's got left. And so she's going through a self-discovery, and then gets in the middle of the swirl of activities that are happening around her that she had no idea were happening when she came up there. So she's kind of, it's really about her development, how she kind of refines herself. She's a strong young woman. I think likable, but it's about her. She doesn't know what she's seeing even, and that's kind of fun. So she befriends someone who's an FBI agent, and they have a good playoff of, she uncovers some clues without really knowing that their clues are quite what they're about, and then the picture starts emerging.
You're doing a good job of teasing us.
I'm like, good. That's how it should be with a murder mystery.
Yeah, and you told me that one of the places that sold the most books is just right down the road.
It's right down the road, yes.
Yeah.
Well, they're sold here at the Becker County Historical Museum. Lakeland True Value, which is the bait shop in the book, has sold over 500 copies of this book, which has been really fun. They've got it out on the cash register, by the cash register. So here's a hardware store that's selling Murder at Pelican Lake. They've been wonderful.
Yeah.
It's been great fun.
And you had a local woman do the artwork.
I did.
Tell us about Marcella Rose.
Well, Marcella has her studio in downtown Pelican Rapids, and what I've always loved about her, she does a lot of wildlife, are the eyes that she does. And I went to her and said, I want a picture of a pelican with the beak up and a little blood dripping out and the eye looking out at the reader, and that's what she did. And so I love the eye. I think the eye kind of grabs people and is really makes the book look more gruesome than it is. It's really more of a cozy murder mystery. It's not a bloody, gory, it's not that kind of a book.
He's saying help me to
help me, is he?
Yeah. Help. Murder at Pelican Lake, Marjorie Matheson Hance. And it's been so much fun to meet you.
Well, thank you.
I think you are an inspiration to a lot of people because, we spend time at the lake. You have the beauty of the lakes and of nature, and people get into birding, especially in May when there's a migration. But you've taken all of that kind of sensory and emotional input and put it into something positive. You've had fun
Well,
with
thank
this,
you.
and you've traveled around too. They're reading in Denver, are they?
They are. I've had book clubs in Idaho and Denver, the Twin Cities, Rogers, a lot of different places, Fargo, so Burgess, our
Vergus.
favorite. Yeah.
They're having the book club in Vergus. I remember that
did,
they
yeah.
were at the coffee shop.
They were,
yeah.
yes, at the coffee shop.
Yeah,
We had 25
advertising
women
you.
crammed in. We had a lot of fun.
A
It's
little
been lot of
tiny
fun.
coffee shop.
Yes, little tiny coffee shop. But I would say it's been so much fun meeting the people who have just connected with this and who love discovering kind of the place again
Yeah.
in a different way.
And are you available if they want to invite you to their book club?
I am. I love it. We have a lot of fun. I have the original artwork that Marcella did for this cover that's about 20 by 30 inches, and I bring that, and we have a lot of fun.
Okay. Well, I think that you can call the Becker County Museum if you'd like and find out how to connect with our author here. And as she already promoted, we've got copies right here in the gift shop at the Becker County Museum, which is right next to the Historic Homes Theater. So it's real easy to find right here in the center of Detroit Lakes. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Museum Roadshow, brought to you by 125 Apparel.